Blog Talk Radio.
Down to sleep, lay me down. I pray my soul is mine to keep. My soul can never step outside this bed, never into all the evil. Now back from the dead.
Are you scared?
He's here.
The calling hours.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk here.
They will say that I have shed innocent blood. What's blood for, if not for shedding?
Episode 58 of the Calling Hours Horror Podcast on Horror Society Radio. It is I, your host, the head undertaker, the dead man Michael Jones of HorrorSociety.com and Living Dead Magazine. What's going on? On this episode, we will have director Casey Crow, sound design and visual effects artist Gene Crow, and actor Matt Willis of the short film Klagger. We will be asking them about their previous work in the industry, as well as about how the concept of the short Klagger came to be, how in-depth they got with the backstory and mannerisms of the character, what the critical response has been, and if there are any plans for a feature-length movie. You know, this is usually not the norm for me, but Klagger really struck a nerve with me. There's a lot I really like about the character. There's a lot I like about the setting. He has a very unique look, and hopefully it's a character that we will be seeing more of here in the near future. In our digital dismemberment spotlights for the evening, we're going to be reviewing Screen Factory's Blu-ray release of Phantom of the Opera, starring Robert Englund. And our good friends at Kino Lorber were nice enough to send us a Blu-ray review copy of Black Sunday. But this particular version of Black Sunday is the AIP U.S. release edition. So there are a few minor cuts, a few changes here and there, but pretty much the same movie. But still well worth talking about. And we're also going to be featuring several bands in our Metal Blade Spotlight this evening. And as a matter of fact, we're going to jump right into that. We're going to start it off with the Black Dahlia Murder from the CD Ever Black. The song is In Hell Is Where She Waits for Me.
Shall
Decapitation from the CD Monolith of Inhumanity. That was Gristle Liquor. And we opened that set up with the Black Dahlia Murder. The CD was Ever Black, and the song is In Hell Is Where She Waits For Me. And now it's time for some digital dismemberment.
Digital dismemberment.
And in our first digital dismemberment spotlight for the evening, we are covering Kino Lorber's Blu-Ray release of Black Sunday, the AIP U.S. release edition. When Mario Bava's groundbreaking Black Sunday was introduced to the U.S. market, American International Pictures retooled the film for the release. In addition to being redubbed in English, the film was given a new musical score and re-edited. In one of the most auspicious directorial debuts in movie history, Mario Bava bridged the gap between the Gothic horror picture and the European art film with Black Sunday, also known as La Máscara del Demonio, or The Mask of Satan. Made in 1960 and now considered a cult classic, it continues to reverberate through the cinema, inspiring and influencing new generations of filmmakers. In an absolutely mesmerizing performance, Black Sunday stars Barbara Steele as Aja Vaja, a beautiful woman tortured and executed as a witch, but not before pronouncing a curse upon those who have condemned her, a curse that is fulfilled 200 years later. You know, this is the version of the film I had always seen. I had always seen the American cut. I was not fortunate enough as of yet to see the original release. There was approximately 3 minutes cut from the film, and AIP did that. They excised or shortened certain scenes in the film, including the burning S branded into Aza's flesh and the blood spewing from her mask when it's hammered onto her face. There's also the moist eyeball impalement of Kruvijan and the flesh peeling off of Vaja's face as he burns to death in the fireplace. Other small noticeable things in the original version of the film, Asa and Huvato are brother and sister. In the AIP version, Huvato becomes Asa's servant. In addition, some dialogue was changed. In particular, there's a line where Asa says, "You too can find the joy and happiness of Hades." AIP modified the line to, "You too can find the joy and happiness in hating." Some of the musical score was changed as well, and the dialogue was completely redubbed into English. You know, this was a very fun title. You know, we're going back to 1960 here, and of course, one of Barbara Steele's earlier roles. In fact, she has a funny story that she tells about working on the set. You know, Mario Bava is known as saying that she was difficult to work with, somewhat irrational, afraid of Italians. Someone had actually told her on set that he was using special film stock that made people appear naked. You know, she had mentioned that she didn't like her fangs, and she changed them a couple of times in her wig. She didn't understand Italian, and she really didn't want them tearing her clothes open and exposing her breasts. So they had gotten a double for her, but she wound up doing herself. And she admits she was drunk and barely over 18 when she did it. The film went on, of course, to be very successful. Of course, you know, Bava had worked on other stuff, most of it uncredited, so this falls under one of his first films. I really like how it opened up. It's kind of surprising sometimes when you think about it. I had Herschel Gordon Lewis on last week, and we talked about him being the progenitor of the gore film. And while this is not a gore fest in that sense, there are certainly high moments of blood, in particular the hammering of the mask onto Asa's face, the reanimation of her corpse, you know, some of the deaths. You know, it's an important film. I think it's a film that really helped to to influence a lot of modern directors. You know, movies like Brainiac, Tear in the Crypt, Bloody Pit of Horror, Sleepy Hollow used a lot of similar imagery from the film. The disc itself, 1.66.1, 1920 by 1080p. It's about 83 minutes of running time. The only special features included on this particular disc are other films other trailers from films in Bava's canon. Again, I would like to review Kino Lorber's regular version. It's very interesting. Barbara Steele has a very striking presence on the camera. So if you're looking to see her, or in particular Bava's work for the first time, this is something worth checking out. Very Gothic style. Definitely playing on the fears and the urban legends of the people of that time. The nice combination of a witch vampire was also interesting. The use of the servants coming back from the grave and one of the doctors to help Asa in her quest for vengeance in the family. So I would recommend heading on over to Kino Lorber and picking this up. I would definitely give the movie 3.5 out of 5 stars. The disc I would give a 7 out of 10. I would have loved to have seen more special features. Of course, knowing the age of several of the people and the passing of some of the people involved with the film, of course, that was not possible. But the film is a beautiful transfer, even for a black and white film. Very sharp. I thought the sound was very good. Make sure to head on over to KinoLorber.com to order your copy. You should be able to get a copy on Amazon.com, or if you're lucky, your brick-and-mortar store will be carrying it. So make sure to head on out and pick up your copy of Kino Lorber's Black Sunday. Coming up in about 10 minutes, we're going to have our feature interview with director Casey Crowe. We're going to have Gene Crowe, who was the sound design and visual effects man, and actor Matt Willis, all from the short film Klagger. But before that, we're going to get into another set of Metal Blade music. We're going to open this one up with Goat Whore. The name of the CD is Constricting Rage of the Merciless. The song is Cold Earth Consumed in Dying Flesh.
Thank you.
just heard Whitechapel. The name of the song was the name of the CD is Our Endless War. The song was Psychopathy. Before that, we opened it up with some Goat Whore. The CD was Constricting Rage of the Merciless. The name of the song was Cold Earth Consumed in Dying Flesh. But it is that time for our feature interview. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to my guests this evening. Casey Crow, Gene Crow, and Matt Willis, all of the short Klagger. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Hello. Hi, Michael. How are you?
Hey.
Good, guys.
Thanks for having us, Michael.
Oh, you know it.
It's my pleasure.
Awesome to be here.
I reviewed Klagger 2 weeks back, and I really enjoyed it. It's not often that
thank you.
I bring on shorts and talk about them, but it was really powerful, both in its presentation, how it looked, how it sounded. The character of Klagger is definitely a character that people can get into. But before we even get into the whole short and what's going to become of it, can you guys kind of tell us about how you guys all got involved with filmmaking? And Casey, if we can, let's start with you.
Sure, absolutely. Back in 2002, I formed I guess what you'd call a film collective, which was myself and a group of buddies or film enthusiasts who basically wanted to make movies. And since we didn't have any Hollywood connections and we didn't have a lot of money to do that with, what we did was we pooled our resources, essentially, pooled our money and pulled the effort together with about 5 different guys. And I kind of liken us to a band with each member taking a turn at being the lead singer. Does that make sense? We essentially would write and direct a short film project, and then everybody would chip in on that one, and then the next one, and the next one, and the next one on down the line like that. So we cut to 2009, and that is about 4 films in. Everyone's had an opportunity to make a movie. And I decided I wanted to do an out-and-out horror film because we really had not done that. And unfortunately, at this period of time, after several years of working together, 2 of the principal members of Zellerquad Films, which that was our group, they moved off to Seattle, and they were too far away to really be as involved as they had been before. And 2 of the other members were involved in a lot of other, sort of personal things in their life and stuff. So it kind of left me by myself with my desire to make a really cool horror movie. And so standing nearby is someone who I've been working with basically all my life, my brother, Gene. We used to do, movies in the backyard with the Super 8, and, we'd film our friends killing each other for an hour and a half, and we called that a movie. But anyway, Gene was there, and he has a background in music and in sound design, and so he was basically able to jump in and help me in a way that was more significant than before, because I'd had those other gentlemen and they weren't able to. So he eventually became more and more involved in this horror concept that I wanted to do. And he eventually ended up being the sound designer on Klagger. He did some of the makeup. I mean, he was literally on the set. When you see that there's sort of an atmospheric look to the scenes, he's actually throwing dirt through the air to create that, So from top to bottom, he really became my co-producer on this film, Klagger, that put together. And so we were out scouting locations, and we found this old mill, and we were just sort of poking around. We thought, wow, this has got some horror, potential written all over it. And along comes this old man, this very rickety, bent-over guy who lived across the street from this old place that we're looking at. And I mean, really, it was literally like out of some horror movie where it starts with 2 people in a rural place and some strange person comes walking up. And so he wants to know what we're doing there, and he's a little bit aggressive with us because he considers himself kind of the caretaker of the unofficial caretaker of this place. So we start talking to him about, well, we want to make a horror movie, and we think this would be a great place to do it, and on. And he said, someone actually died in this factory back in the 70s, and I worked here. I actually worked in this factory. And he starts telling us this story that's kind of taken us aback. It's like, my God, this is sounding pretty damn cool. This is sort of, it's like the movie gods had just walked up and handed us something. Here we are at this great location, and here's this very interesting person, giving us this story. It was like a slam dunk. We need to take the story of the guy that died in this factory, and we'll add our own horror twist to it, and voila, we had Klagger. And that's basically how that's how things got started, and that's the movie that we have now. And of course, you may or may not be aware of this, but it's screened at film festivals all over the United States. We've screened in Great Britain, Canada. Yeah, I don't know if we've hit France or Germany yet, but we've had a lot of screenings various places. And people that would see the short would say, "Hey, this is interesting. You should. There seems to be more to it, because we hint at it, and you hear some voiceover when the guy's being attacked by Klagger. You hear like voices from the past that seem to suggest there's a greater story, and people were telling us, Klagger could really, you should expand on this. You should do more with it. And so, through the encouragement of film festivals and attendees, we gradually started to think about developing Klagger into a larger project, a feature film.
And we'll certainly touch on those and the film festivals, because I want to talk about how important that is for independent filmmakers such as yourselves. Now,
definitely.
Gene, for you, Casey mentioned, you guys shooting films in your backyard growing up as a kid, and of course, I'm just going by IMDb, so if anything's inaccurate, please feel free. But your first credit on IMDb is actually for Klagger as the composer. Now, when you stepped in and started helping your brother with this film after his other people had moved away, did you know at the time how in depth it was going to get, and how did you incorporate your knowledge and love of music into this short?
Right. Oh, great question. Basically, just with the aesthetic of Klagger, like what he is, him being a ghost and him wielding a wrench, instantly my mind went to in a real industrial, gritty sound. I grew up on industrial music, and I was really into like Nitzareb and 9 Inch Nails and Front 242 and stuff like that. So that was kind of an easy move over as far as creating that kind of sound design, really like pipe hitting hard. We wanted Klagger to be intense. That was when Casey was originally writing the script. He was talking about him banging his wrench and it affecting Perry's ears so intensely that they would bleed, and it would cause him some serious pain. So I thought, well, that's an easy go-to right there, just as far as intensity. And I've been an electronic musician for about 10 years, and so that was sort of my transition when Casey started talking to me about Klagger and what he wanted to do with it, and I found it really interesting. And like he said, we've been doing movies, ever since he was 9 or 10 years old. So I thought, well, I'm interested in film. Let's give it a shot. And it was definitely a learning experience. It was great, and I really enjoyed it. And that's kind of led us to where we're at now with the feature and moving forward with that. So
now, speaking about the character in particular, Matt, you play Klagger, and one of the things that I've tried to tell people about this short, especially here, and it's funny, when I was looking over the Klagger website, you mentioned some of the film festivals that you were a part of, and the funny thing is, you guys were an official selection for the Nevermore Film Festival, which takes place in Durham, North Carolina, which is like 15 minutes from my house.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'm good friends with the people that run that convention, and I'd heard that the film was playing, but at that time I couldn't go see it. But Matt, the thing I was driving at was one of the things that I've been trying to tell my friends and people on Horror Society about this film is it's the attitude in which you carry the character. If you look at some of the iconic ways or the ways that some of the iconic characters in the genre have been portrayed, you look at Tyler Maine's body language when he played Michael Myers in Rob Zombie's Halloween, Kate Hodder's body motions for Jason. When you look at that, the guy that was the Orphan Killer, Marcus Miller in The Orphan Killer, their body language did just as much for the character, particularly since you really don't hear, Klagger doesn't have any extensive dialogue. In your mind, when you took on that role, what was your initial concept of the character, and how were you able to make your body language so expressive to give the character that feeling of dread and fear?
Well, I just tried to get inside, the character's head and become Klagger. And when we put that mask on, I became the monster and just tried to act as scary as I could. I probably make more faces inside the mask than I should. Like, they should have a camera inside there. It'd be pretty funny, probably. But, I had we developed a little walk for Klagger, so it had his foot twisted a little bit, so thought that made it a little bit different than other characters and a little creepy. We ran smoke,
like I said, it was just the body language, and one of my favorite things on the screener that you guys sent me is you guys went to you did a behind the scenes, and I think it was I'm trying to remember which festival it was.
That was Texas Frightmare Weekend, and that was Matt actually did an appearance at the 2012 in Texas Frightmare in the original costume, and then we've revamped the character completely. And what was on the DVD was the 2013 Klagger, which is a different aesthetic look for the feature-length film. Just to keep it straight there.
Excuse me. One of the things that I really liked on that feature that you guys did, besides the interaction with the fans and some of the other people that were there, you came face-to-face with another character from the state of Texas that I'm very, very high on. Several months ago, I had Billy Pond on, of course, from Circus of the Dead and Doll Boy. And one of the moments that was really chilling, seriously gave me goosebumps, was when the characters of Doll Boy and Klagger kind of face-to-faced each other at the convention.
That was an intense moment for everyone.
It really did. It came across when you watched that, you were just waiting for them to go to blows. And I remember in my review 2 weeks ago, one of the things that I had mentioned was, in the future, I know you're still establishing Klagger and looking to do a feature, and I know that Billy is trying to do more with Doll Boy, besides the short they did and his appearance in Circus of the Dead. But, with all the talk of versus movies, Freddy versus Jason and everything, what would your guys' thoughts be on a face-off between Doll Boy and Klagger?
Well, that could be very interesting. What a lot of people don't know yet about Klagger, and we're going to expand on this in the feature film, is that in essence he's kind of a demon. He basically was a guy who went to hell, and he was such a badass redneck that he fought his way out, but heaven wouldn't take him and hell couldn't keep him, so he's sort of trapped in this purgatorial existence. So he's pretty freaking badass. We sort of think of him kind of like a dragon. He's kind of like a fire demon if you wanted to get right down to it. So I would be all for doing a team up between or a versus if you wanted to put it like that. But as cool as Dollboy is, it might be very difficult to put them in the same ring. Do you take my meaning?
What would have to happen is Dollboy would have to die and come back.
Yeah,
he'd have to be dead as well for them to have an equal battle. He would have to go away and come back, so to speak. It would put.
I think what Gene's saying is that would put them more on equal footing in terms of their power, because it's kind of like saying a face-off between a real life character, like, I mean, we're talking about fiction, but Michael Myers versus Jaws or something. I mean, it's just it wouldn't quite. There's one character kind of coming from the hellish netherworld, and one character that's based in reality. So I don't know, that maybe they could team up and kill together.
That could be interesting too. Now, Matt, for you, when you went to these conventions, and we're going to talk about conventions here for a second, for you as the guy in the makeup, the guy who's walking around taking all the pictures, what was the audience reaction to you, and were you surprised by how much they embraced your character?
Well, like they said, I only went to the first one in, 2012, you guys, 2011?
Right,
But still, we had a pretty good reception. We screened Klagger. I maybe scared a kid a little too much. Mom didn't appreciate that. But other than that,
we actually had an interesting moment there with Tom Savini.
Oh, yeah,
right.
I knew that. Got a picture with Tom Savini. I think we had a little pre-face-off with Dollboy that same year, too. It might not be
yes, I think so, too, yeah.
Yeah, maybe have a picture of it. Yeah, definitely, right. But it was cool.
Now for you, Gene, you won Best Sound. The film won Best Soundtrack at the Macabre Fair Film Festival in, I believe it was 2013.
Yes.
Kind of talk about how that was for you, on your first, short that gets out there to the audience, What?
Right.
Speak about your industrial, influences in music, but in particular with the sound, the echo and the voiceover and stuff, was there any particular film or style out there that really drew you in? Because I think a lot of the sound in Klagger is pretty unique.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, yes, I would say mainly the inspiration. I don't know necessarily from a aesthetic musical standpoint, but The Shining was a big influence on Klagger for us. I think Casey, with some of the cinematographer, his direction with Anthony, and how they got some of the looks, and just the feel of the building, the emptiness of it. It had that. We were going definitely for or definitely influenced by Kubrick there, and so I guess when we sat down to the movie, I mean, we really kind of pieced it all together. I mean, me and Casey did co-editing on it, which I wouldn't advise actually for filmmakers out there, but it's a difficult thing to do. But then after it was all edited and said and done, I've been collecting and recording all kinds of sounds for years previous to that, and once I just sort of put my mind to it and kind of and also with the Cimarron Cowboy song, that was we used the song 3 times in the film, and once I put that echo on it, and we started actually before we even shot the film, Casey went in with his camera and he kicked up some dust and just did some kind of slow tracking shots over there, and we have access to that song through one of Casey's friends whose father was actually in that band in the mid '60s here in Abilene.
Late '60s, yeah.
Late '60s, okay. So since we had access to that song, and it kind of by the nature of that song and being in a factory, that also sort of lent itself to Klagger being a redneck that listened to country music, that worked in this factory for many, many years. And after we heard the story, it just kind of, that's the way it sort of melted together. But as I said before, just with the industrial feel of everything, I just wanted to put some metal into the soundtrack without putting metal in, if that makes sense,
Yeah. It makes perfect sense.
I mean, I can appreciate, Yeah, exactly. I thought that juxtapose might be too intense if, we had metal music in it, but I still wanted to bring some intensity. And like I said, with my background in industrial music, that was an easy link to go to. That answers your question. I'm sorry, that was probably off on two tangents,
certainly.
But yeah.
Now, Casey, for you, what was it like seeing your short in all of these cons? Like I see, we mentioned the Nevermore Film Festival. We talked about the Texas Frightmare, but just to give people an idea, excuse me, the Oklahoma Horror Film Festival.
Oh, yeah.
The Bram Stoker,
well,
you guys have been in a great selection of festivals.
We've been very fortunate in that regard. I was telling you earlier about my experience in independent short filmmaking. I have never seen sort of the interest and the enthusiasm that you get with horror fans. It's an entirely different level than just your regular dramatic movies, So, what you said about how did it make me feel, I mean, it's fantastic. It's validating to have people coming up to you and saying, man, that's a really cool movie, and then, even further saying you should expand it to a feature film. I mean, that's tremendously encouraging. These are people I've never met before. I mean, we've made a lot of friends just through the movie. Through traveling with the film and doing festivals and doing conventions and stuff like this. So, I mean, it's just really almost opened up a whole new area of our lives. I didn't know that the horror community existed. I didn't even know what that was. It's a whole other universe.
It's a beast.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's I guess it's kind of like a comic book convention, for horror people is essentially what we've been attending all these couple of years. So it's really been validating. It's exciting. It's fun. You get to meet like-minded people who are really into horror films and talk about Romero and talk about Fulci, and people know you have this instant rapport with them. So I mean, it's been really rewarding and fun in that regard.
Now, a lot of people may not realize, of course, with the wealth of conventions and festivals that you've been to, you guys have won several awards. The film has won the best horror film at Director Circle Festival
right.
of Short. We mentioned that it won Best Soundtrack at the Macabre Fair Film Festival, and at the Fear Fete, the Horror Film Festival. Yes, it won Best Paranormal Micro Short, and then at the Late Night Horror Film Festival, it won Best Editing. So one of the things that I really noticed about the film is it's not just getting praise in one particular section. You've won awards for this film in many different facets. As a filmmaker, everyone wants to win, Best Picture or Best Director. But the fact that your film is so well-rounded and has won awards in so many different categories really shows the amount of talent and the time and the effort that you guys put into it. How gratifying is that to win so many different awards for the film?
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, that's kind of it just speaks to the horror community out there. They are into the movies in such an in-depth way, man. They analyze it on every level, from what you were saying, the editing to the sound to the cinematography. As we gather more friends and as we meet more people in the horror community, they're more like filmmakers. Really, they look at they don't just go by the surfacial aspects of Hollywood or whatever. They really get into it, and they're just like me, and that's kind of the bonding experience that we've had with people talking about the film.
I would like to add also, I think it's a testament to all the people that worked on the film, and we had such an incredible team. Oh yeah, Matt Willis himself. He did 4 or 5 jobs. On top of being smothered by smoke inside of this costume, he was a grip. He helped with the camera. He did lights, and he had 2 great friends of his, Kobe Rogers and Andrew Stinson, that were essential in getting. Oh right, I'm sorry, Andrew Robbins. I'm sorry, that's my friend. Sorry, my bad. Okay, and. But Anthony Gutierrez, also the cinematographer, he was just, him and Casey, really worked really tight to, get the camera where it needed to be and to tell the story like it needed to be.
Yeah, all of these guys that Gene just mentioned are filmmakers in their own right. Matt is a director, writer-director. Anthony is also a filmmaker. And, I've heard it said that if you're ever working on your first project, it doesn't hurt to have a couple of extra hands in there who know what you're going through, who've actually done it themselves, So, that's tremendously helpful to have talented people standing there with you who've been through the trenches and they know what's going on.
Now, Matt, one of the things I wanted to ask you, being an effects artist myself, how long did it take for them to put you in makeup, and what did you find to be the most difficult aspect of working in the makeup?
Well, the first Klagger, now I think they got a makeup on. I haven't done that. When we did it, we had a mask, and I believe Casey and Gene both painted the mask, or how'd y'all do it yourself, guys, or have it done?
Yeah, we had the original that was altered. We altered it to look more burn up, but it was like an original, zombie from Fear Factory, right?
Michael, do you know what Death Studios is?
Doesn't sound familiar off the top of my head.
Okay, Death Studios is a mask maker, and they've been around for several decades. And so basically, there was a mask there because we weren't really effects guys, and we didn't have the budget to get someone like yourself or a Tom Savini to come in and help us. So what we did was we took an existing mask and we altered it to kind of get the look that we wanted for the project. And then Gene did some painting and some alterations on it and stuff to get it where we wanted it. And then we really kind of considered smoke part of the costume. It really is. Those of you, if you see the film, you'll know what I'm talking about. We never really considered Klagger in full costume until the smoke was going, And we basically ran a hose up the pant leg of that jumpsuit that Matt was wearing, and then we'd pump smoke into it, and it acted like kind of a tent. It would enclose the smoke, and then we cut holes into the costume, and it would sort of pump out, and it gave him it gave what was a pretty simplistic practical effect if you just saw it on the set. It really gave it an ethereal, otherworldly quality once that smoke got going there, so. Poor Matt, like I said, the smoke, it would get trapped inside. Maybe he can tell us more about the personal experience, but the smoke would get trapped in the mask.
Right. It was only like 100 degrees weather inside a hot factory, and I was in full wool jumpsuit with some heavy boots on. Got a heavy latex mask on. Let's pump some hot smoke into you. So they fill my suit up. They go through the mask. You have to hold your breath, a few minutes and let it pump out. Casey sometimes, I think he'd hesitate 3 or 4 minutes, call action, maybe let me suck. I don't know.
Yeah. That was just to torture you a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun though. I wouldn't trade it for nothing. I mean, that was awesome.
We should also mention that. Yeah, it was definitely a challenge.
Definitely.
We should mention that Matt is. I said earlier that he was a writer-director. He has actually written one of the funniest horror comedies I have ever read. Now, this has actually not been produced yet. It's a screenplay that he's worked on. But, Michael, if you like some comedy mixed in with your horror, he's written this wonderful script called Killer with a Guitar.
You got it. Thanks.
All right.
I'm in already.
He likes it already.
That's right.
Awesome.
Copyright.
See, just you saying that reminds me of Zach Selman doing the soundtrack and playing a zombie in Matthew Lutweiler's Dead and Breakfast. That for one
right,
immediately popped into my head.
Right.
Right. Now, hopefully I can get that off the ground pretty soon.
We talked about difficulties in your costume, Matt, but now one of the funny or interesting things that's mentioned on the IMDb page for the film is that you guys had to stop filming for several hours because the cast and the crew were attacked by a swarm of bees.
The bees.
And,
that's
right.
true, yeah.
You guys basically
Remember
cleared the
that.
set and you put a jar of honey under the hive and got rid of the bees, you know. Can you talk about, did you guys have any other difficulties? Did Mother Nature give you guys any problems? Were there any inherent problems with the building? For example, you know, like shooting in a warehouse like that.
Yeah, there were a few.
Yeah, there were several. In fact, Matt can probably tell you about his personal experience with this, but it was an old feed mill, and the equipment that used to be there had been removed. And when they removed it, in order to get it out of there, they would break the floor. And so there are areas in there where there's just a big hole in the concrete. And Matt fell through it at one point.
I wish the camera was
on that. And our cinematographer fell also.
Yeah, Casey.
Now, you didn't get hurt, did you?
No, I'm indestructible. I cannot get hurt.
Matt's also a stunt man.
What are you going to do there?
Right.
We talked about the location a little bit. I did a film called Z13, and we shot when I first saw the film, the first thing I thought was, holy shit, they filmed this in Greensboro. Because it looked
wow. Okay.
We shot in an old place that it used to be like an old train depot warehouse. And I mean, this thing
cool.
Was
yeah.
There were parts that we couldn't even go into because the floors weren't safe. But one of the things that I noticed was, and you guys talked about, you know, you had a limited budget, you know, how much of that was shot with natural light? You know, did you have any problems, especially for Eugene, in post or anything? Did you have problems with echo, or did you guys go back in and dub everything?
Yes, fortunately, there's very little dialogue. I'm sure you're aware.
Right.
We did have Matthew Aycock mic'd up, and that was just for the first maybe 45 seconds. But so everything after that point, other than a few grunts and moans, is all dubbed in, like to footsteps, to doors opening. We did that all, and just me and Casey spent we probably spent more time doing the sound than we did anything. I mean, that probably took us, 4 or 5 months just to beat out all the little sound effects and stuff. Because I think it's what's really important to me as a sound designer and as a Foley artist is just getting it to sound real. We wanted people to forget that they were watching a movie, and if the sound is good, then you're 30% there, So,
And what you were talking about earlier, Michael, the sound, the lighting, we most of it was natural light, just the daylight that was pouring through those windows. I think maybe there's one shot that used an HMI. It's the one where Perry's laying on his back and Klagger's ectoplasmic stuff is dripping on his face. That one shot was actually used with a light, but everything else was completely just what was there.
Now, to give people an idea, you talked about how long it took you guys to do post for the sound. How many days on set were there actually shooting? And, because digital technology is the way to go, what did you guys use for equipment, camera-wise?
We used Matt's camera. We borrowed a camera from Matt, the one that he had used. Yeah, it's a DVX 100, I believe.
Yeah, Panasonic
and
DVX 100.
Yeah, DVX 100B, right. And we put an anamorphic lens on the front of it in order to squeeze the footage onto that sensor so that it could actually be widescreen, because that camera doesn't shoot a widescreen image. So we kind of used some older technology on there to get more of a widescreen look, because Klagger was not shot in HD. We didn't have the capability of doing that at the time. But with a little bit of up-resing, it looks pretty good even today. I think it's comparable to some of the HD shorts that I've seen out there.
I was going to say that. I was going to ask you if you guys actually shot it in HD, because if not, I think it's a combination.
For the record, no. it wasn't, but...
It just looks amazing, I have a good DVD player, but a lot of it has to do with the style in which you guys filmed it, so it definitely comes across to me as an HD film, particularly...
Well, yeah, when you... With the additional use of the anamorphic lens to give it widescreen, and some of the color correcting and stuff that Gene did in post, that red, that amber kind of look, that really makes the image pop. And we achieved a pretty decent HD quality look on that without HD equipment. It just goes to show you, it's not the size of your equipment, it's how you use it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It has just that really slick look to it that you don't get to see in a lot of short films. So it shows a lot of attention to detail and effort on your guys' end.
Thank you very much.
Oh, of course. Let's talk about what you guys are planning on doing for the feature. And I know you don't want to give away too much, but just by going off of the website, if this is not accurate, please, again, correct me. One of the things I saw in here was the first addition to the Klagger cast is actor Ty Mitchell, who will play the role of Klagger in 1977. For those of you that don't know who Ty Mitchell is, he had small roles in the Coen Brothers' True Grit and The Dry Land with America Ferrera. Kind of talk about how you guys are bringing Ty in. And now Ty is playing the quote-unquote human version of Klagger. Is there going to be someone playing, Matt, are you going to take the reins of Klagger again in supernatural form, or what's going to happen with that?
I don't believe I'm in this one. I think they needed someone a little bit taller than me to fit the Klagger image they had in their head. That's a good point you make, Michael. As we transition from the short film into the feature, a lot of changes had to be made in order to basically expand it to 80 minutes. And in that process, Klagger became a different kind of guy. In the short film, he's sort of an old man, because we see on the on the bulletin board there, we actually see a picture of Klagger back in the day, and it was like an elderly, kind of bent over guy. We decided to, in expanding the story, we made him a younger, kind of a tall, lanky redneck type guy. And in doing so, there were some physical changes that happened in the character that required us to sort of, go with a different look. And so, to answer your question, there is two different people playing Klagger. Like you say, Ty Mitchell will be playing Klagger as he was as a man back in the 1970s. And there's a boiler explosion. He's killed.
he goes to hell, he comes back, and then we will have another actor playing the grizzled, burned creature from hell, basically. We'll also incorporate a stunt man to do some of the fire related things that we have planned for the movie. But did that answer your question?
Oh yes, definitely. Now,
cool.
But we didn't talk about Ty though.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Ty Mitchell. We saw him. Where did we first see him, Gene? What was the impetus for that?
The Marfa Film Festival.
That's right. Ty Mitchell was the face of the Marfa Film Festival. These festivals have kind of sometimes they have logos and different things, but he kind of was the image, the desert country cowboy image that they use for all of their promotional materials. And we were like, man, that guy freaking looks cool. Let's find out more about him. And through research and Facebook, and we just gradually began to talk to him about the character and what we wanted to do with it, and he was very enthusiastic about it. And it just basically grown from there. And it's been great just talking with him and developing the character kind of long distance, because we don't have all our financing and everything together yet. That takes time. But it's cool that you can go ahead and begin a relationship with people that you want to work with on down the road. And, by the time we get to our destination, everybody will be on the same page and know exactly what to do with the character.
Now, for the feature film, and again, if this has changed, please let me know. You guys are bringing in Chris Richard Hansen to do special effects work and makeup. Chris has worked on several major motion picture films: Underworld, Hellboy, Lost Highway. Kind of talk about how you guys got Chris involved, and again, as an effects artist, I know how important it is to sit down with the director and kind of go over the character concept and the character look. Kind of talk about when you talked with Chris, how you guys came up with some of your changes for Klagger.
Right. Well, like Casey was talking about with the changes of Klagger going from an old man to a middle-aged factory worker, and once we discovered Ty, I knew that we needed a new look for Klagger. I knew we couldn't stick with that old Klagger because once the feature comes out, there's a much more of a human element to Klagger now, the way we've developed him. So the Klagger in the short film that Matt played is essentially a monster, just an aggressive, intense, revenant monster character. And what we're doing now is much more different than that. So we saw Ty, we thought he looked really interesting, and we thought he would work well in the part. And so we actually, when I first saw some of Chris's work, I was just amazed by it. And especially the detail anatomically to a lot of things he was doing with his special effects makeup and stuff. And I was just like, wow, this guy's just really amazing. I actually saw, the first thing I saw from him was he did a mask for Donnie Darko 2. And I've never seen Donnie Darko 2. I've heard mixed things about it, but this mask he made for that film was just blew me away. There's this very industrial, hellish-looking horned thing, and I was like, wow, this guy's amazing. So I started messaging him and started talking to Casey about developing, Klagger more and stuff. And so we sent him photos of Ty. So the current creature that we're using, Klagger, aesthetically is half of Ty Mitchell's face. I mean, so when you see like our Facebook profile page, that the right half of his face, that's Ty Mitchell. So I mean, that's really Chris. He's just an amazing talent. I mean, I can't say more about him. We've just got every place we've taken Klagger in the last 2.5 years. People they just can't wait to get a picture with him, and I think that's a credit to how well that silicone mask is and some of the applications that we've done, of course, but primarily because it's just amazing work, amazing artistry. So.
I would agree. I would love, once you guys get it going and you start doing the merchandising, let me know. I would certainly love to get a picture. I would love to get a picture of Matt as Klagger personally, and to go up on the wall here.
Right? Yeah. I mean,
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, Matt looked amazing also, and he's just he helped us get Klagger to where he is today, which is a noticeable. I hope to one day be an iconic horror character, you know. So
yeah, we'll get you a picture. We'll get Matt to sign you an autograph, and we'll send it to you, Michael.
Yeah, for sure.
I would love to get him up on the wall because, like I said, I just felt something with that character, you know, and the same way with Billy Pond, you know, I got to see Circus of the Dead before it really got out there, and I kept watching it, and I'm like, man, you know, what is it about, you know, just
we know Billy quite well, and we've actually, you know, hung out with him and talked movies, and he's just a really great guy, another Texas filmmaker. You know, if you like your horror movies really dark, and I mean dark, depraved, you know, clowns doing fucked up shit to people, everybody needs to don't walk, run, and see Circus of the Dead.
Yeah, Circus of the Dead is a ride to be had for sure.
Oh,
this movie is, if you like your horror inky black, get out there and see it, man.
I mean, yeah, my jaw was on the floor, and again, you know, I'm getting the same impression from Klagger. I can't wait to see the feature.
Oh, cool.
You know,
yeah.
You know, but one of the things too that's important is your sets, and you know, a set can have just as much presence and power as a character. And one of the places, according to the website, you're in negotiations with the American Electric Power to use the historic West Texas Utilities power plant. And
right.
I'm looking
Yeah.
at the photos that you took, and that place is just absolutely stunning. Can you give us any update on how negotiations are going for that?
Yeah, it's been going really well. It's taken a long time with locations. You know, especially with a large corporation like that. They don't really understand what you're doing with filmmaking, you know. It takes a lot of explanations and being transparent and really just being straightforward with them. We have two gentlemen that we are working with. We have a liaison here in Texas, in Abilene that we work with directly. He's kind of the guy that has the key that opens the door for us. And then we're dealing with another gentleman that runs AIP's real estate, and he's in Corpus
right.
Christi.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a lot of back and forth, sending messages, and really defining very clearly what it is we're going to do with their building, you know, because especially if you start saying stunts, you say fire, you say, you know, hitting this and hitting that.
We should touch on the selling point of it, because what we're trying to do.
Right.
They're trying to sell the property. I think
that's
it's at
right.
$11 million right now.
Yeah, this is a very expensive, older building. It's a turn-of-the-century building, and like you said, Michael, it does look absolutely fantastic. But what they're trying to do is sell it, and they've been trying to sell it for a very, very long time without any luck. So when we come walking in, we're saying, well, we don't want to buy it. We want to use your building for our movie. We essentially want to rent it. And getting that conversation, you know, coming to terms with each other is sometimes difficult when they're saying sell, we're saying rent. So basically, it's kind of like it's just getting everybody on the same page with it has been the real uphill battle. When we were first using the Anderson feed mill for the short film, it took 5 no's before we got a yes. You know, it's just hitting on the thing that they will like. And what we're basically talking about right now is we want to make that building famous. You said, you know, sometimes the sets are characters. We're going to make that building as famous as the house in Psycho. I mean, that's kind of my goal. Well, hopefully, but you know, shoot for the moon and fall amongst the stars. You know, try. You know, I would hope one day that building could actually be as iconic as anything else, and maybe that the people at AEP that we're talking about it can give tours like they do at Universal Studios or something, you know. So there's a lot of different ways to go about it, but it's a process, you know, and we're still kind of working through that. But we're dedicated to it because it is exactly the location that we need for Klagger's domain.
Certainly,
definitely.
Now, with all the stuff that's going on in film, for the three of you, since you know you all understand the production end, but you all also have specific things that you do, you know, with music, with directing, with acting. For each one of you guys, you know, of course, I know Klagger is a project that you guys want to get out there, is a project that you're very passionate about. You know, but I always ask independent filmmakers when they come on, you know, independent actors, anyone who does anything in the industry, if you had the unlimited budget and someone said, here's X money, go make your dream project, for each one of you guys, what would that project be?
Oh, gosh. That's a very good question, Michael. I would have to say, you haven't asked me what my favorite movies and stuff are. I guess you'll get to that later. But my favorite film of all time is Jaws, and I worry sometimes that Hollywood is going to try to remake it because of all of the remakes and stuff that they do. And I don't want the movie that I love, the 1975 Steven Spielberg Jaws, I don't want it to be besmirched. But if you were to ask me, you know, any amount of budget, any movie that you want to make, I think there is a fantastic book by a guy named Steve Elton called Meg. And it's essentially about the megalodon shark. And it's one of the most interesting shark concepts that's come out in the last 15 or 20 years. And I would have to say, in lieu of making Jaws into a remake, I would prefer to do Meg, Steve Alton's Meg, as kind of a 21st century Jaws. It's a completely different story. It's an entirely new take. It kind of has an environmental subtext to it, and it could be as exciting, but you wouldn't have to just do a retread of the same old thing. And frankly, the Sharknadoes and stuff are getting a little that's getting a little old. The two-headed shark and the
yeah.
So that would probably be mine.
Sci-fi movies myself, so I know what you mean on that. Gene, for you,
go ahead, Matt. You can answer that. You do a lot of other projects.
Well, I would, like I say, I always tell people, I think I'd like to answer the question like, people say, what would you do if you had $1 million? And a lot of people say they would quit, they would vacation. What I would do is make movies, man. I would just make movie, and that would be fun for me. So there's no one project I would like to do. I would like to do my own projects. That's mostly the problem with a lot of filmmakers is getting the money to do the projects. That's one of the hardest parts, is getting the money.
Right.
So, I would probably...
Yeah, I would probably answer the question similar to Matt, because the only thing that I would want to put that much, I mean, filmmaking is such a process. It's labor intensive. There's so much that goes into it. I can't fathom in my mind wanting to recreate something I've already seen. It would have to be something that came from. I mean, me and Casey have developed a story about my uncle who killed a man in '93. It was a really strange circumstances, but we've developed that all into a story that I would really like to see on screen one day, and that's pretty much my answer to that question.
Now, Casey, to go back to what you said really quick, I didn't ask you what your favorite, films were. Part of the reason I don't do that is because I feel like when people are interviewed, when directors are interviewed, actors are interviewed, things like that, that's usually the first question you get, and I really tried to ask questions that you normally wouldn't get during an interview, but I will ask you all this. Is the horror genre your guys' favorite genre? What was it specifically about horror that drew you guys into Klagger?
Well, I told you before I'd done several other projects that weren't horror related with my Zeller Quad group. You know, we did a nature film. We did movies that we actually did sort of an Elizabeth Bathory type story. And so, you know, gradually I thought, because I'm a big horror fan, I thought, well, I should do a horror movie, you know. And I like all types of films. I wouldn't say that horror is necessarily my favorite, but it's certainly right up there. I mean, I love science fiction movies as well, you know, and
Sure.
anything that comes out of Sundance, I want to see it. You know, I'm a filmmaker. I want to know what other people are doing. Most recently, I guess, Adam Wingard's film You're Next was, you know, really blew my mind. I really enjoyed that one, and kind of I look forward to seeing whatever he's got coming up. I think it's called The Guest or something like that. And you know, Ty West, the guy who did Sacrament and House of the Devil, I mean, he's freaking amazing. So I mean, I enjoy all kinds of films, and if a good horror movie is coming out and people are talking about it, it's something I want to see. But there is also a lot that aren't necessarily that good, right. You know. So you pick and choose.
For me, I appreciate I appreciate a dramatic story over genre, and I really like the horror films that have lots of drama, like The Orphanage. That's one of my favorite horror films. I really like Insidious. I like that the family element, I don't know, that being scared of the loss of the things that are close to your heart and family. You know, that's what really draws me into a horror story recently, I would say.
How about for you, Matt?
Like, I like all genres, like both of them, but if I had to just pick one genre to watch forever, it would be horror. Like, horror is what got me into filmmaking. I remember being like 5 years old and wanting to see Freddy Krueger. My mom took me to the theater, and I wasn't scared. I was rooting for Freddy. It's been like that, you know? Like, so.
That's awesome.
I can enjoy them all, but it'd be if I were to pick one, it'd be horror, definitely. Evil Dead got me into wanting to be a filmmaker and watching all the behind-the-scenes and director's commentaries. I think the commentaries are one of the best things to come along. They teach a lot of information.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
That's been my film school, basically.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we're right up against the end of the interview, but, you know, I wanted to, you know, you guys to know, again, I think it's going to be a tremendous success. I can't wait to see more. You know, before you go, do you want to give, for each one of you, tell people other than Klagger, what do each one of you have coming up in film, if you have anything else coming up, and if people want to follow you guys on social media, websites, anything like that?
Yeah, Gene, why don't you tell them about that?
Right. Just for the Klagger project, we're on Instagram as Klagger Movie. KlaggerMovie.com is our website. And you can also find out more news about Klagger with the Joseph Klagger character Facebook page, and then there's a regular just Klagger page. As far as projects for me, I mean, I'm doing some editing for some short films that I'll be announcing in the coming months. I'm also a electronic musician, and under the moniker Dazzle Hips, if anyone's interested in that. And Matt, I guess I'll go to you now.
I make a lot of, basically right now, you know, I write a lot, and then hopefully I'll get my short film that Casey mentioned, Killer with the Guitar, out later this year sometime, maybe. People can check out.
This. I will drive to Texas. I have got to say,
awesome.
to see this.
Casey and I, actually, hope you don't mind mentioning this, Casey. We worked on a film together before. I wrote and
Love to Death
with the cinematographer on. It's Love to Death, and you can check out Love to Death and any of my YouTube or stupid YouTube comedy videos. But it's on YouTube.com.
Monkey Chatter. You got to check out Monkey Chatter.
Yeah. YouTube.com/MNW. That's MNDOUBLDYOU. All right. Sorry. Thanks.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. I think it was your sister, but I'm not sure. When I first started posting about you guys coming on, someone said something about the monkey coming out. Tell me what the monkey is.
Oh, yeah. That was like a crazy aunt of mine. Like I just have this little series on YouTube, and I'm a small partner. I get I'm a YouTube partner, so I get a little percent. I haven't actually seen a check. You got to get like 1 million views or something for that. I'm not there yet. Yeah, I got a small little series, and it's called The Monkey Chatter. So just if you want to check that out, search The Monkey Chatter on YouTube, and there's that. It's a monkey puppet I work with, and it's just it's hard to act, and I want to act and direct, and I don't have a lot of friends and a lot of time, so I do videos myself, write stuff, and put them on YouTube.
Right on.
Cool.
I love it. Well, guys, you're always welcome to come onto the podcast. When you shoot the feature, let me know. Like I said, if nothing else, I would love to come down and possibly do a set visit. I know Billy and I
awesome, yeah, for sure.
Getting together before, so I would definitely love to check you guys out. Like I said, I think Klagger's
for sure.
Fantastic. I think you guys have done fantastic work. Keep up the good work. If you ever have any news you need on Horror Society, please, guys, shoot me a line and let me know, and I'll get you up.
Cool.
We really appreciate your support, Michael, and Horror Society. You guys have been really great to us, ever since 2 years ago. So it's great to meet you and to have you guys support for sure.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Yes.
Oh, no problem. It's great having passionate filmmakers on that actually love what they're doing, and it's the whole time that you guys have been on, the one thing that's been very noticeable about talking to you guys is it's not about fame. It's not about money. It's about doing something that you enjoy doing and sharing your passion with all of your fans.
Exactly.
Yes, definitely.
Well, guys, thank you for being on, and I hope to have you guys on again soon.
Cool.
All right.
Take care,
so much,
man.
Michael.
Have a good day.
All right, guys, take it easy. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, that was director Casey Crow, sound design and visual effects man Gene Crow, and actor Matt Willis of the short film Klagger. Make sure to head on over to www.klaggermovie.com to get all the details and the updates about this film. Also, check them out on Facebook and on their IMDb page. Coming up in a few minutes, we are going to do our second digital dismemberment spotlight, this time on Scream Factory's Blu-ray release of Phantom of the Opera. But before that, we're going to go into a final metal music break. We're going to start this one off with Facebreaker. The name of the CD is dedicated to the flesh. The song is Tomb of the Hungry Dead.
Roll on.
From the CD, Darkness Unbound, the song was Death Crown. We opened that set up with Facebreaker. Dedicated to the Flesh was the CD, the song Tomb of the Hungry Dead. To let everyone know, make sure to head on over to www.horrorsociety.com for all of your independent and mainstream horror news, much more so independent, but we do mix in both. You'll find a variety of articles written by Horror Society's great writers, such as Mitchell Wells, Mac, Mike Huvenall. Let's not forget Mike D. as well, and of course, the Dead Man writes there as well. And speaking of writing, do not forget to pick up issue number 6 of Living Dead magazine, which is our Rob Zombie issue. There's great interviews in that magazine, including interviews with Rob Zombie and my interview with the one and only Bill Moseley. You can also check out my detailed look at both House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects, both films that I think a lot of horror fans seem to overlook for some reason. So make sure to head on over to Living Dead magazine to get your copy of the current issue. And also don't forget November 13th through 15th of this year at the Oregon Convention Center in Portland, Oregon, Living Dead's Horror Meets Paranormal Convention 2015. As more and more details become available about that convention, including guests and lineups, I will make sure to let all of you know, because the Dead Man plans on being there, and I plan on representing Horror Society while I am there as well. But now, ladies and gentlemen, once again, it is time for some digital dismemberment.
Digital dismemberment.
And in our featured spotlight this evening in Digital Dismemberment, we are going to be covering Scream Factory's The Phantom of the Opera. Get ready, Freddy. Scream Factory is going to the opera. A Blu-ray release of The Phantom of the Opera, including several bonus features, has been announced for release on February 17th of this year. Robert Englund, of course, of A Nightmare on Elm Street, Galaxy of Terror, and Freddy vs. Jason, assumes the classic role of the Phantom in the shocking, nerve-jangling retelling of the Gaston Leroux timeless tale of music, madness, and murder. An aspiring opera singer finds herself transported back to Victorian-era London and into the arms of a reclusive, disfigured maestro determined to make her a star. To silver-throated Christine, Jill Sholin of The Stepfather, enjoys success through the arrangements of her new lover, until she realizes that he has been committing unspeakably grisly murders in her honor and won't stop until he's completed his masterpiece, In Blood. Also starring Bill Nighy from I, Frankenstein, Shaun of the Dead, and Underworld, Alex Hyde White of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Terrence Harvey from Hell, and Molly Shannon, SNL superstar, directed by Dwight H. Little, Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, Marked for Death, and Rapid Fire, and featuring makeup effects by Kevin Yeager, of course, of A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, and Face Off. This darker spin on The Phantom of the Opera is the one to watch. You know, I have not seen this since the film came out, and I have to admit, really, really tremendously enjoyed seeing it again. And this is during the height of when Robert Englund was becoming a pop culture superstar through the Nightmare on Elm Street series, of course. And I find it interesting, especially in the behind the scenes, because there is some great special features on this disc. You have the audio commentary with director Dwight H. Little and actor Robert Englund. You have Behind the Mask, the making of The Phantom of the Opera, featuring new interviews with director Dwight H. Little, actors Robert Englund, Jill Sholin, and Alex Hyde White, screenwriter Duke Sandifer, and special makeup design Kevin Yeager, special makeup effects artist John Carl Buechler, and Everett Burrell and John Vulich, and composer Misha Segal. In particular, behind the mask, the making of Phantom of the Opera, one of the things I found particularly interesting was, the makeup was dual layered, of course, for Robert's character, but he talks about how involved the makeup was, even much more so than the Freddy makeup for A Nightmare on Elm Street, so I found that to be pretty interesting. One of the things that people may look at when they see this film is, of course, with it being Robert Englund, your first thought, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, is, you kind of get that Freddy feeling from him, but while watching it, he kind of takes it in a little bit more of a direction. While Freddy certainly became more over the top as the years went by, I felt like the way he played the Phantom really lent well, and it was actually nice being able to see his face for the most part. One of the things that's kind of unique about it is the film takes place in modern times and in around the 1900s, I would guess it is. The young lady Christine goes to audition for a part in the play, and she is struck by a sandbag from an overhead walkway, and it knocks her out. When she comes to in a dream state, and that's kind of funny, again, considering Robert Englund's in the film. She comes back from her dream state, and she's in this, the Victorian era, and she's the understudy for, this play that's going on, and the lead actress winds up being frightened so badly she screams and she hurts her vocal cords. So Christine takes over the role, and of course this has all been orchestrated by the Phantom and him working on, his next musical work. And there's something about Christine that appeals to him. So he goes about making sure that she's the star of the production. And what's interesting, it's a very Faustian tale, of course. He makes the metaphorical deal with the devil, that his music will live on forever, but no one will ever love him, and he's hideously disfigured. And as time goes on, he recreates his face by skinning the faces of his victims and wearing it. So there are several fantastic gore pieces during the film, a fight sequence in particular, people being impaled on spikes on walls, people being set on fire, people being skinned. The Phantom doesn't hide quite as much as I would say in other versions of the film. He is certainly a man about town. His propensity for hookers is shown during the film. I really like the set locations were really nice. In fact, one of the funny things is if you pay close attention, the sets that were used in another film, and to get that stony cavern look, a lot of it was done with painted styrofoam. And there's a scene where they're walking through the catacombs underneath the city, and they're marking the walls with chalk, and you can actually see where the styrofoam moves a little bit. But for it being a bloodier version, I think this was really a well done film. Again, I thought the backdrops were absolutely stunning. It should be noted that the actress who plays Christine, Jill, she did not actually sing the parts. They brought someone in to dub those. But again, she portrays a very believable performance, and you do believe that it is her singing. This is right up there with my favorite versions of this film. I would give the film a 4 out of 5 stars. It was definitely entertaining, well worth checking out. The only complaint some people may have is in points in the film. It appears to be pixelated. It's not really the word that I want. There's a little bit more grain on the film than I would say with your standard Scream Factory release, but I don't feel like it really detracts from the film. As a matter of fact, I think it leads to authenticity and a realistic look for the film. As far as the special features, the presentation, and the packaging, there is no flip cover for this one. They went with the original art, but when you open it up, there are some still shots from the film. Again, the special features, as I had mentioned, You also, there's the theatrical trailer. There's more trailers from Scream Factory. This is definitely one of those films that's worth going out there and picking up. I would give the overall disc an 8 out of 10. Another beautifully well presented and done film from Scream Factory. Make sure to head on over to www.shoutfactory.com to pick up your copy. You should also be able to get it on Amazon or any of your big box retailers where you've been lucky enough to pick up Scream title factories before. Well, again, I think it was another great show. I want to say thank you to our guests, director Casey Crowe, sound design and visual effects man Gene Crowe, and Matt Willis, actor, all from the short Klagger. Make sure to head on over to www.klaggermovie.com, and get all the details on that. Make sure to check them out on their Facebook page as well. We want to say thank you to my friends all out at Metal Blade for the fantastic musical selections they gave us this evening. Thank you to our friends out at Kino Lorber for sending us our Blu-ray copy of Black Sunday, the AIP U.S. release edition. And once again, thank you to our friends out at Scream Factory, Tom Chen, Sarah DeBrune, everyone out there for sending us our copy of Phantom of the Opera. Make sure to tune in next week, ladies and gentlemen. And until then, this is the Dead Man signing off, telling you all to rest in peace.